What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best Self Blueprint. As you know, if you've tuned into this before, the mission of this podcast, this whole YouTube channel, is to motivate, educate, inspire people to move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So before we even get into the episode, I'm going to give the YouTube spiel. If anything I talk about proves valuable to you, if you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. If you are not yet subscribed, there will be podcasts coming out a lot more regularly. I have 3 guests ready to record this week, all fantastic people. I am very excited for you to hear from. But go ahead and click the subscribe button. And if you believe there's someone in your life that could also benefit from hearing these words come out of my mouth, go ahead and click the share button. And then as usual, if you have questions, comments, agreements, disagreements, go ahead and toss them in the comments section. But let's get into it. First, housekeeping items with the studio. We just had part 2 of the framework series. It was very successful. That was the mask. So that's what I'll be kind of diving into today and talking about more in depth. But the next one, part 3, that will be on Saturday, March 23rd from 10:30 a.m. until noon. If that's something that you want to partake in, there are only 10 spots. So definitely sign up very quickly. That link will be in the description and all that below. So yeah, part 3 is coming. That is the mountain. That will be another very, very useful, universally useful practice and system framework for anyone who shows up to learn, to adopt into their self-development journey, their mindset, behavior change journey. So get involved in that. Also, there are now 2 charity events just to kind of start putting on your radar for later this year. The first one will be the weekend of June 1st and 2nd. We'll be doing a 24-hour workout challenge. You can do the full 24 hours. You can come in and just hit one round of the workout for an hour, but that will be at Body by Design in Waukesha. More details on that to come. And then all the way out August 24th and 25th, we will be doing the Little Warrior Dash. So that's for the Little Warrior Foundation. That'll be there's 3 options. There's a 6-hour, a 12-hour, and a 24-hour endurance race. Less of a race, more of just a fun run. And you can do that solo. You can do that with a relay team. That's for any of those options. So a few things starting to get on the calendar. Now that I've got my feet under me, we're starting to figure things out in the studio. I want to get back to what really lights me up, which is workshops, events, and coaching. So that being said, workshop coming down the barrel March 23rd. Sign up for that. 2 events on the calendar. There will be plenty more, I promise you, but those are the 2 to kind of keep an eye out for. And then coaching. I do have a couple spots available. I don't want to take on too many clients, but if you're someone who believes that sitting down with me, working through some key things going on might be beneficial, definitely let me know. So all that being said, let's kind of dig into the meat and potatoes of this solo episode. Like I was saying, on Saturday, we did part 2 of the framework series, The Mask. So I want to dive into what is the mask, what was the process of this workshop, going over the 101 concepts so that even if you weren't able to attend, you can still take home a little bit of the bacon. So what is the mask? The mask, as I explain it and talk about in the workshop, is something that we create at a very early age to protect us, that also has the negative effect of shielding our authentic self away from the world and creates a divide between us, our entire us, and our most authentic, transparent, aligned self. When we're babies, we are unconditionally loved. We don't have to fake anything, hide anything, compartmentalize anything. We just are who we are, and it's beautiful, and everyone loves you, even if you throw up on your mom or pee on your dad or kick your brother in the face. It's, you are you unapologetically. But there comes a time in every person's life where simply being you is not enough to receive that unconditional love, acceptance, admiration, and inclusion. The first time that this happens, that you decide or are compelled to hide a part of who you truly are, or fake something about you that is not authentic. That is the first layer of the mask. So the mask, like I was saying, this is each situation moving forward in your life where you fake something or hide something out of a compulsion to fit in, to not be ostracized, to not be critiqued, to make sure that you are still part of the tribe. This increases the thickness of your mask. And my belief is that there are a lot of people who, I mean, as early as 3, 4, 5 years old, your mask is created. And there are a lot of layers that are added to your mask. And you begin to wear the mask so continuously for so long that the mask becomes a permanent thing. And it's at this point where you start to lose that deep connection with your authentic self. Now, in the workshop, there were people who asked, well, what if there are positive layers to the mask, right? Like if you are a hyper, super active, super talkative, outgoing person, and you're at a dinner party and someone is telling you you need to basically stop being so annoying. Well, I'm sure there's a layer of your mask that comes up that gets you to act in accordance with respect to other people in the room, where you are being quiet, you're being respectful. And yeah, so there's a lot of benefits that come from adapting to social behaviors, right? And so that's where, just to kind of fast forward, there are pieces of your mask that have utility. There are pieces of your mask that protect you, that are useful. What we dialed in on were the particular layers of each person's mask that are more of a comfort blanket at this point, that are simply anchoring their true self and hiding their true self from being able to shine. So the first piece of this was simply explaining the mask. Then we dove into acknowledging each person's mask on an individual level. Some good questions to jar loose layers of your mask are: which parent did you crave love from more? And what or who did you have to be to receive love or admiration from that parent that didn't feel authentically you? So for me personally, I would say I craved love from my mom more. I always joke with people that I am my dad, but younger and with hair. Dad, if you ever watch this, joke's on you. But I craved love from my mom more. And there were certain pieces of or personality traits that I portrayed that may not have been me. And so there were a lot of them that were very useful. My mom is very hardworking, very disciplined, very intentional. And there were a lot of very blessed pieces of who I am that she gave me. But there were also certain things that I would shield my authentic self from, and I would portray this version of myself so that I would not get judged or critiqued. Obviously, as an adult looking back, my mom loved me unconditionally, still does, always will. But that mask was created due to the craving for the love. Another good question would be when you got on, whether it was sports teams or extracurricular activities or making friends in school, the first time that you got judged or criticized or left out, what pieces of you did you decide to hide away? Or what false pieces of you did you decide to portray so that you wouldn't get judged? A key example of my life is sports. I played sports all growing up. Anyone who plays sports knows there were the cool kids on the team and the not so cool kids on the team. And in order to fit in, a lot of times, or just not get bullied or judged or left out, there were certain times where, at least for me, I compromised who I was. And that was creating another layer of the mask. And so just going through your life from early childhood through elementary school, middle school, high school, if you went to college or went into trade school or went into whatever was next, there are all of these fundamental pieces of life where we may have created additional layers or more permanence in our own mask. So that's the first thing, the first tidbit that I'll recommend is whether you pause it right here or you kind of go through this whole thing and then journal it out when we're done, just kind of acknowledging what layers of your mask are you still holding on to. Now, once we acknowledged the layers of each person's mask, and we actually, there was a printout of a mask, and each person wrote key words of things that were layers of their mask. Once everybody had the time and the space to sit with themselves and to go through and really think about their mask, the next thing we did is we had everyone partner up and really express what the key words were on their mask. What were the memories tied to it? What were the emotions that came from this layer of the mask popping up? What did you feel? What anxieties or stresses or insecurities did you feel that made for the mask to pop up in that moment? And then just discussing whether or not that layer of the mask is still applicable, whether or not it does have utility. And so just going to grab a sip of water here. And so that was a really great practice because it does put you, it requires you to be vulnerable and to express to another human being these deep parts of yourself that oftentimes we hide away. And it's very easy to write it down on a piece of paper and keep it to yourself, but can you articulate it? Can you be vulnerable and trust somebody with these pieces of yourself? And so everyone sat for a good 5 or more minutes and just got it off their chest. And it was so amazing. I myself partnered up with one of the people in the workshop. Our conversation was so beautiful, and I'm sure everyone else's was too. So it was simply acknowledging your mask, not letting it hide in the shadows anymore, because the next step is removing the layers of your mask that no longer apply to you. And so in this, there were a few pieces to this. The first is gratitude. Your mask does keep you safe, right? There's a reason that you created it. It had a purpose in your life, and that was keeping you safe. That was keeping you part of your tribe. That was keeping you close to people who were important to you, are maybe still are. But with that being said, it's very similar to as you're growing up, parents have a crucial role in keeping you safe, keeping you protected, making sure you do feel loved and secure. But there comes a point when the birdie's got to fly the coop. And it's very similar with this mask. It's been your guardian, your protector. It's kept you safe. It's kept you part of these tribes, these groups, these relationships. But now it comes to a point where most, if not, I would argue all of us are at a point where this protector no longer needs to protect you. You are strong enough, you are capable enough to let that mask come off and let these people see the real you. And that's how you find your real people. If you remove your mask and all of a sudden certain friends become very uncomfortable and move away, that's a natural process of shifting into alignment. So first step of the removal is gratitude. Second step is just acknowledging it's time. It's time for a little birdie to fly the coop. And then the third piece is getting reintroduced with that person who's been behind the mask for so long. So for this, we started by running through a visualization. And in the visualization, each person was standing in their bathroom looking in the mirror. And who was looking back at them was them with the mask on. And they really looked at each of the words and they felt the emotion of the person with the mask. And then they looked at the eyes behind the mask and they saw their authentic self patiently waiting ready to express themselves. And so after however much time they needed to say what they needed to say to the mask, feel what they needed to feel, the visualization, they removed the mask and they reintroduce and reconnect with their authentic self. They say what they need to say because this person's been hiding and scared for a long time. So what do they need to hear, right? They need to hear that you're going to support them, that you're going to let them be themselves, that you aren't going to lock them away. And then what do they need to say to you? Maybe it's thank you for letting me out. Maybe it's screw you for keeping me in, but just visualizing and going through the process of the removal. From there, we all circled up, took our physical masks, and one person at a time went into the middle of the circle. The last time I did this style of workshop, it was me and Justin with BSW, and we actually had a bonfire, but that was not going to happen in a studio. So what we did is just got a bin, one person at a time, goes up, says what they need to say out loud to their mask. Thank you. It's time for me to, go my own way. I appreciate you. What you've done for me means the world, but it's time to let you go. Crumple it up, release it, and then turn to the group and express one piece of your authentic self that you're excited to let the world see. And that was it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful seeing everybody be so transparent and so connected with their authentic self. And you could feel the energy shift with each person, just that feeling of letting go, and then that feeling of renewed vitality, right? But how I finished the workshop was telling everyone in there that this process is the intro to a very long book. And so what I will also challenge you to do that I spoke to everybody else about in the workshop is, what is a way, or what's a habit that will allow you to connect every day with your authentic self? In what ways will you make sure that you're allowing your authentic self to come out, to express themselves, to run free in this beautiful world? On the flip side, what is going to be your process every time you notice your mask pop up? So for you, how are you going to respond or react? And then the third piece was having grace. This is a very difficult thing or behavior to overcome. And so inevitably, there's going to come a time where the mask does pop back up. You don't have the wherewithal to take it off right away. And for some people, that can be disappointing because they sat for 90 minutes. They paid to get this lesson instilled and to just be guided through this framework. And so when that mask pops back up and you aren't able to pull it right back off in time, and you go through the experience wearing your mask, have grace for yourself. Know that, one of the most frustrating but funny parts of being a human is just dealing with the mistakes of being a human. And so this process falls in line with that as well. But that's really what I wanted to go over in terms of the workshop, in terms of this mask that we wear. Now, in terms of my life and just kind of reporting and keeping updated on the lessons that I'm learning, it's been a fascinating journey because I have best self and this is my purpose. I know that wholeheartedly. This is my contribution. This is how I help in the small, sometimes big ways that I can. And then there's vital, and that is my job. That is my career. And it's been an interesting internal battle between, my dream has always been best self. And vital is a great job that allows me to work the job and still build best self. But I've been diving deep into trying to get clarity around in which basket do I put which eggs and how many? Meaning, how do I work out my priorities between time investment in each category? And I came across well, I reread a book called The Cafe on the Edge of the World, which, if you have not read this book, I cannot highly enough recommend that everybody read this book. It's like 130 pages. It's, I mean, the book is, it's almost like a pamphlet sized book. It's a very small, very easy read, but it asks some very profound questions. And so on my flight this past month to our last Vital trip, I read this book and I had my journal and I was just going nuts writing down information. But one of the things that caught me in my tracks was a story about a businessman and a fisherman. Bear with me, it's a bit long-winded, but it's worth it. So this businessman goes on a trip, and this is paraphrasing. If you read the book, this is probably not close to word for word what actually happens, but this businessman goes on a trip and he sees a fisherman on the pier with a little cooler next to him. So the businessman walks up and inquires, just asks him, "What are you doing?" And the fisherman turns around. He says, "Well, every day I come here, I catch a few fish. I bring the fish home. I have a nice quality dinner with my wife, my kids. I take a nice sunset walk on the beach with my wife, come back home, maybe strum on the guitar, have quality time. And that's what I'm doing." And the businessman kind of looks at the small cooler, looks at the man. He says, "Well, you think you could catch more fish?" Fisherman says, "Yeah, probably. Why?" He says, "Well, if you catch more fish, you could sell the extra to the market down the street and make some profit." Fisherman kind of nods, says, "Yeah, that'd be pretty nice. Then what?" Businessman says, "Well, then you could teach other people how to fish. You could all meet here, catch your fish, and then you could profit off of the fish that they catch as well." He says, "Oh man, that's a good idea. What would I do next?" He says, "Well, then you could buy a boat and you could go to the spot where the best fish are and you could make even more profit. And then if you keep investing, then you could have a whole fleet of ships and you could keep building this for 30 years, at which point you would be international and you could have and do whatever you want. And then you could retire." And the guy says, "Well, okay, so after 30 years, I retire, and then what?" The businessman says, "Well, that's the best part. Then you can do whatever you want." And the fisherman smirks and he says, "Anything I want. You mean like come to the dock, catch a few fish, go home, spend some quality time eating a home cooked meal with my wife and children, after which I take a nice sunset walk on the beach with my wife, and then come home and strum on the guitar?" All of that to say, it was such a good reminder that so many of us give up happiness for success, which is then supposed to lead us back to happiness. And I understand there's sacrifices to be made. And there are also people who genuinely love the game of building that type of thing. But I'm realizing quickly that I fell in the trap of being 1,000 miles ahead and thinking about that international fleet of boats, when instead what really makes me happy is just being here, doing things like this, the simple things. And so I guess what I'm trying to relay to you is, are you in the pursuit of trying to get to a point that will allow you to be happy? Or are you prioritizing doing things today that make you happy? For me, ever since I shifted back to doing the things that make me happy, my days are so much better all across the board. I'm more productive. I'm more fulfilled. I'm more at peace. I'm more connected to myself and to others. And it's because I refocused on doing the things that light me up, that generate enough income for me to live the life I want to live. It was when I lost that and I let ego take the wheel and think about, oh, well, I can invest this much here and focus on these things here to build it to there. And again, there are plenty of people in this world who enjoy that game or believe it's worth it. My bias leans towards day-to-day fulfillment and enjoyment. And so that's what I would ask you too. I mean, again, that's my bias. And I am fully aware that it's not an objective truth. It's just a perspective. But if you have been on the hamster wheel and you are miserable or just not happy or feel like something's missing, that's what I would recommend. are you taking the time, or are you putting enough eggs in the basket of day-to-day fulfillment and enjoyment? And let me tell you, if you are like me and you have not been doing that, it is the best medicine one can take, is getting back to things that are in tune with who they are. Because the reason I'm talking about this is I was talking about the mask, which is reconnecting with who you truly are. And that is very much an internal, I don't even want to say battle, although it can feel like a battle at times, but that's an internal process. I feel like the external other side of the coin is to make sure that you're doing things that are in alignment with your authentic self. And maybe you don't have to revolve your entire life around it, right? You have a job that pays well and it's good, but maybe outside of work, you pick up a hobby that you dropped off, or you rekindle a relationship with someone that lit you up that just kind of fell off for no reason. Just little things to both internally and externally fine tune so that you can feel that equanimity, you can feel that harmony within yourself and experiencing it outside in the world. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So again, any questions, comments, any of that stuff you have about that rambling that I just went on, throw it in the comments section. I do keep up with that stuff. I am always curious to hear people's insights on anything that I talk about. I will never claim to be this guru or know-it-all. I'm just curious about this stuff. I mean, I am a human being trying to make the most of this experience. And I'm sure that in your experience, you've learned, seen, heard, gone through things that would benefit me. And so definitely let me know. Other than that, again, please like this, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. But as always, thank you so much. If you made it to this part in the video, thank you. And also, amazing job. Just like, it baffles me to know that even if there's one person that's made it here, hi, by the way, you just took, I don't know how long this recording has been, but you just took this amount of time to grow and learn and develop yourself. And you are my kind of person. It is so cool to me and inspiring to me to know that there are people out there who just crave leveling up in life. So thank you for listening to this. I hope that played a small part in helping you do so. Like I said, there are a lot of very, very inspirational guests coming up in the next few weeks. I will do everything I can to make sure that every Monday an episode comes out. The reason I didn't post the last 2 weeks is because a couple of the podcast interviews fell through, both on my end and on the future guests' end. So I knew that I wanted to get more guests on, but hey, I also really enjoy doing these. So I figure I'll get back to doing more of them, but enough rambling. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Every Monday, there will be an episode coming out. And that's about it. Peace out.